The storm arrived without warning. It rolled in from the mountains like a living thing, dark, heavy clouds swallowing the sky, thunder cracking like bones snapping in the distance. By the time Ethan Cole reached the old house, the road behind him had already begun to disappear under sheets of rain. He turned off the engine. Silence. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the rain returned, louder, harder, drumming violently against the windshield. Ethan exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel. "This is it," he whispered. The house stood at the edge of Black Hollow, a small, nearly abandoned town tucked deep in the forests of northern Maine. It was taller than he expected. 3 stories. Crooked roof. Windows like hollow eyes staring into the storm. Waiting. It had belonged to his uncle. A man no one liked to talk about. Ethan stepped out of the car, his boots sinking slightly into the muddy ground. The air was cold, unnaturally cold for late autumn. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and refuses to leave. Lightning flashed. For a split second, the entire house lit up. And Ethan swore. He saw something move in the window. He froze. Another flash. Nothing. Just darkness. "Get a grip," he muttered, grabbing his bag. The front door creaked open before he even touched it. The smell hit him first. Damp wood. Rot. And something else. Something faint, metallic. Like old blood. Ethan stepped inside cautiously. The floor groaned under his weight. Every step echoed louder than it should, as if the house was amplifying his presence, announcing him. "You're not alone," a voice in his head whispered. He ignored it. The living room was frozen in time. Furniture covered in dusty sheets. A fireplace filled with ash. On the far wall hung a portrait of his uncle. Daniel Cole stared back at him. Eyes sharp. Almost aware. Ethan looked away. Just a painting. But even as he turned, he felt it. That sensation. The unmistakable feeling of being watched. By the time Ethan finished unpacking, the storm had grown worse. Rain hammered against the windows like fists. Wind screamed through the cracks in the walls. And somewhere in the house, something moved. At first it was subtle. A faint sound. Scratch, scratch. Ethan paused, listening. It came from above. The ceiling. "Probably rats," he said out loud. But the sound didn't stop. It grew louder. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Too heavy for rats. Too deliberate. Then it stopped. Just like that. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan stood still, every muscle tense. And then, a voice. Soft. Close. Right behind him. "Ethan." He spun around. Nothing. Empty room. But his heart was racing now, pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "No," he whispered. "No, I didn't hear that." But he had. He knew he had. That night Ethan couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt louder. Every shadow looked deeper. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the faint movement of shadows as lightning flickered outside. Then he noticed something. The clock on the wall. It wasn't moving. Stuck at 3:03 a.m. He frowned. That's weird. He reached for his phone. No signal. But the time read the same. 3:03 a.m. And then, the scratching returned. This time, from inside the walls. "Sir. Ethan sat up slowly. The sound moved. Not randomly. It was traveling. Closer. Closer to him. Then it stopped. Right behind his bed. He didn't turn around. He couldn't. His body refused. And then, a breath. Cold. Right against his neck. "You came back." Ethan's eyes widened. His voice shook. "Who's there?" No answer. Just silence. And then, a low, unnatural sound. Not quite a voice. Not quite an animal. Something in between. Something wrong. Ethan forced himself to turn. Slowly. Very slowly. The room was empty. But the wall behind his bed. It was moving. Barely. As if something inside it was breathing. Morning came suddenly. Too suddenly. Ethan woke up on the floor. He didn't remember falling asleep. The storm was gone. Sunlight poured through the window as if nothing had happened. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Until he saw the wall. The paint behind his bed was cracked. Deep scratches carved into it. Not random. Not accidental. They formed something. Words. Ethan stepped closer, his chest tightening. He reached out, tracing the marks with trembling fingers. And then he read them. "Let me out." He staggered back. No, this isn't real. But something else caught his attention. The mirror across the room. His reflection stared back at him. Pale. Shaking. And behind him, something moved. Ethan froze. Slowly he turned his head. Nothing. The room was empty. But in the mirror, it was still there. Standing behind him. Tall. Too tall. Its head nearly touching the ceiling. Its body thin, stretched unnaturally, like it didn't belong in this world. And its face. There was no face. Just darkness. A hollow void where something should have been. Ethan couldn't breathe. He tried to scream. But no sound came out. The thing tilted its head. As if studying him. Learning him. And then, it smiled. Not with a mouth. But with something far worse. The mirror was empty again. Ethan stood frozen, staring at his own reflection, waiting, hoping that the thing would reappear so he could prove to himself that it hadn't been real. But nothing came back. Only him. Only silence. Only the house. Sunlight filled the room, warm and almost comforting. It painted everything in soft gold, hiding the cracks, softening the shadows. It tried to make the house look normal. But Ethan knew better. His eyes shifted slowly to the wall behind the bed. The words were still there. The scratches were deep, carved through layers of old paint and wood, as if something with immense strength and patience had etched them from inside. Ethan stepped closer again, his breath uneven. Okay, someone's messing with me," he said, forcing logic into his voice. "This is a prank. It has to be." But even as he spoke, he knew how ridiculous that sounded. No one knew he was here. No one had even come near this place in years. And no one could carve something like that from inside a wall. He needed answers. And answers meant leaving the house. Ethan grabbed his jacket, keys, and phone and stepped outside. The air felt different. Too still. No birds. No wind. Even the trees stood motionless, as if something had told them not to move. The town of Black Hollow lay a few miles down the road. When Ethan reached it, he realized something was wrong almost immediately. Most of the houses were abandoned. Windows broken. Doors hanging open. And the few people he did see, they avoided him. Eyes down. Silent. Like they didn't want to be noticed. Or worse. Like they didn't want him to be noticed. The only place that looked alive was a small general store at the corner of the main road. A bell rang softly as Ethan pushed the door open. Behind the counter stood an old woman. Her name tag read, Margaret. She looked up. The moment her eyes met his, her expression changed. Not curiosity. Not surprise. Recognition. And fear. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. Ethan frowned. "Excuse me?" "That house," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "You're staying in Daniel Cole's house, aren't you?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Margaret's grip tightened on the counter. "I need to ask you something," Ethan said. "My uncle, what happened to him?" The old woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced toward the door, then the windows, as if making sure no one, or nothing, was listening. Then she leaned closer. "Your uncle didn't die," she whispered. Ethan's stomach dropped. "What?" "They said he did," she continued. "Said it was an accident. Said the house collapsed in the storm." She shook her head slowly. "But that's not what happened." "Then what happened?" Margaret swallowed. He tried to open it. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Open what?" The old woman's eyes darkened. "The thing inside the walls." Margaret's voice dropped even lower, almost afraid to exist. "Your uncle, he changed. Years ago. Started hearing things. Voices. At first he thought it was his mind playing tricks. But then, the voices started answering him. Ethan said nothing. He couldn't. He told people there was something in the house, she continued. Something trapped. Something that had been there long before the house was even built. That's insane, Ethan said quickly. But his voice wasn't steady anymore. Margaret ignored him. He said it wasn't evil, she whispered. Not at first. He said it was just alone. A long silence followed. Then he tried to set it free. The storm that night, Margaret said, her eyes distant now as if she was watching it happen again. It sounded like the sky was tearing apart. Lightning struck the house over and over again. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Just like last night. People heard screaming, she continued. Not just Daniel's, something else. Something wrong. Her hands trembled. And then it stopped. What did they find? Ethan asked. Margaret looked at him. Nothing. What do you mean nothing? No body, she said. No blood. No sign of him at all. Ethan's throat went dry. The house was different after that, she added. Walls cracked. Floors warped. Like something inside it had stretched. Pause. Then. And sometimes, at night, you could hear it. Ethan leaned forward. Hear what? Margaret's voice dropped to a whisper. Something, trying to get out. Ethan stepped back slowly. This is crazy, he said. You expect me to believe there's some kind of monster living inside the walls? Margaret didn't react. She just stared at him. You've already seen it, haven't you? She asked quietly. Ethan's heart skipped. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence was enough. Margaret reached under the counter and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She slid it toward him. Take this, she said. Ethan hesitated, then unwrapped it. Inside was an old key. Rusty. Cold. Where does it go? He asked. Margaret shook her head. It doesn't open a door, she said. It opens a truth. The sky had darkened again by the time Ethan returned to the house. The storm was coming back. Faster this time. As he stepped inside, the air felt heavier. Thicker. Like breathing through water. The house wasn't silent anymore. It was listening. He could feel it. Watching him. Waiting. Ethan clenched the key in his hand. Okay, he whispered. What do you want from me? The answer came instantly. From everywhere. From the walls. From the floor. From inside his own head. Finish it. Ethan froze. Finish what? The house groaned. A deep, unnatural sound echoed through the structure, like something massive shifting beneath the floorboards. And then, a loud bang from upstairs. Ethan flinched. Another bang. And another. Something was hitting the walls. Hard. Violently. Trying to break through. Against every instinct telling him to run. Ethan moved toward the stairs. Each step creaked loudly beneath him. The banging grew louder. More desperate. More aggressive. Until it stopped. He reached the top of the stairs. The hallway stretched ahead, dark and narrow. At the very end, a door. Slightly open. Breathing. Ethan could see it now. The wood wasn't still. Moved. In and out. Like lungs. Something was behind it. Something alive. His hand tightened around the key. Slowly. He stepped forward. The door creaked wider on its own. Darkness spilled out from inside. Thick. Heavy. Wrong. And then, a voice. Not a whisper this time. Not soft. But deep. Broken. Inhuman. Ethan. His blood ran cold. You have the key. The thing inside shifted. He could hear it now. Bones cracking. Skin stretching. Something enormous unfolding in a space far too small to contain it. Open it. Ethan's hand trembled. This is what my uncle did, isn't it? He whispered. Silence. Then, a slow, unnatural laugh. He tried. A long pause. But he was weak. Ethan's breath stopped. You're not. Lightning flashed outside. For a split second, the inside of the room lit up, and Ethan saw it. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. Something impossibly tall. Pressed against the ceiling. Limbs too long. Too many joints. And a head. Turning toward him. Too fast. Too unnatural. Then darkness again. The key felt heavier in Ethan's hand now. Like it didn't belong to him. Like it was waiting. The voice spoke again. Softer now. Almost pleading. I've been alone for so long. Ethan closed his eyes. His mind raced. This was real. If any of this was real, then opening that door would change everything. Forever. Behind the door, something shifted closer. Right up against the wood. He could feel it. Feel its presence pressing against reality itself. Waiting. Hoping. Hungry. The key trembled in Ethan's hand. Not because he was afraid, but because something on the other side of the door was reacting to it. The wood pulsed. Like it was breathing faster now. Excited. Hungry. Ethan stood frozen at the threshold. Every instinct screamed at him to run. To drop the key. To leave the house and never look back. But another voice, quieter, deeper, pushed against that fear. You need to know. His uncle had stood here once. Held this same key. He had heard the same voice. And whatever happened that night, it had started right here. Ethan swallowed hard. This is it, he whispered. The air grew colder. The darkness inside the room seemed to lean toward him, like it was listening. Waiting. Ethan searched for a keyhole. There wasn't one. The door was old, cracked, warped, but there was no visible lock anywhere. His grip tightened. This doesn't make sense. The voice answered immediately. It's not for the door. Ethan's heart pounded. Then what is it for? Silence. Then? You'll see. Against his better judgment, Ethan pushed the door open. It didn't resist. It didn't creak. Just moved. As if it had been waiting for that exact moment. The darkness inside wasn't normal darkness. It was thick. Heavy. Almost physical. Ethan stepped in. And instantly, the temperature dropped. His breath became visible. The air smelled like rust and decay. And something else. Something alive. Lightning flashed outside. For a brief second, the room was illuminated. Ethan's eyes widened. The room was far bigger than it should have been. From the outside, it should have been a small storage space. But inside, it stretched endlessly. Walls bending at impossible angles. Ceiling too high. Floor uneven like it was made of something organic, something that had once been alive. What is this place? He whispered. The voice answered. Home? Slam. The door shut. Ethan spun around. Hey. He rushed back, grabbing the handle. It didn't move. No matter how hard he pulled. It wouldn't open. Panic surged through him. No, 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 this isn't happening. Behind him, something moved. Not a shadow. Not a trick of light. Something real. Something heavy. Something that dragged itself across the floor. But, scrape. But, Ethan turned slowly. His body refused to move faster. Because deep down, he already knew. Was there. Watching him. Lightning struck again. This time, it didn't just illuminate the room. It revealed the truth. The creature stood at the far end. Tall. Far too tall. Its body was stretched unnaturally, limbs elongated like they had been pulled apart over time. Its arms nearly touched the ground, fingers long and thin, ending in jagged bone-like claws. Skin, if it could even be called that, was pale, almost gray, stretched tight over something that didn't look human anymore. And its face. Ethan's breath stopped. There was no face, just a hollow surface, like melted flesh. And in the center, a vertical crack, slowly opening. The crack widened. Too wide. Wider than any human mouth could. Inside, darkness. Endless. But something moved within it. Shapes. Too many. The creature tilted its head. Then, it spoke. Not with a voice, but with something deeper. Something that vibrated inside Ethan's skull. You came. Ethan staggered back. What are you? He choked out. The creature took a step forward. His joints bent the wrong way. Bones cracking with each movement. I waited. Ethan shook his head, trying to stay grounded. My uncle, what did you do to him? The creature stopped. For a moment, it was completely still. Then, it laughed. A broken, distorted sound that echoed from every direction. He opened the door. Pause. Like you? Ethan's chest tightened. Where is he? The creature leaned closer. Its hollow face inches from Ethan now. Here. Ethan froze. Still inside. Suddenly, the walls shifted. Not metaphorically. Not subtly. They moved. Bulging. Breathing. As if something inside them was pushing outward. Hands. Dozens of them. Pressing from beneath the surface. Trying to break through. Ethan stumbled back, horror flooding his senses. What is this? The creature turned its head slowly. They tried to leave. Pause. They couldn't. Ethan didn't think anymore. He ran. The moment his body moved, the creature reacted. Fast. Too fast. A loud crack echoed as it lunged forward. Its limbs stretched unnaturally, covering distance in seconds. Ethan sprinted through the twisted room, his feet slipping against the uneven ground. There's no exit, he shouted. Behind him. Heavy footsteps. Closer. Closer. The key in his hand suddenly grew hot. Burning. Ethan cried out, almost dropping it. What the? A faint glow appeared from it. Pulsing. Reacting to something. Or guiding him somewhere. Use it, the voice again. But this time, it wasn't the monster. Ethan froze mid-run. What? Ethan. The voice was weak. Familiar. Don't trust it. His heart stopped. Uncle? The monster shrieked. A loud, piercing sound that shook the entire room. The walls trembled violently. The hands pressing through them clawed harder. More desperate. He is mine. The room flickered. For a second, everything changed. The twisted space disappeared. And Ethan saw the real room. Small. Rotting. Normal. And in the center, a man. Thin. Broken. Barely alive. Chained to the wall. Daniel Cole. Ethan gasped. You're alive. The illusion snapped back. The monster roared. The room twisted again into its impossible form. Don't listen. The creature lunged. Ethan dodged, barely escaping its claws as they slammed into the ground, cracking it open. The key. It wasn't for the door. It was for something else. Something hidden. Something real. Ethan clenched it tightly. Tell me what to do, he shouted. For a moment, silence. Then, his uncle's voice. Faint. Breaking. End it? The creature didn't rush this time. It didn't need to. Ethan stood in the center of the impossible room, chest heaving, the burning key clenched tightly in his fist. The walls pulsed around him, alive, watching, waiting. And the monster, it simply watched him, learning him. You understand now. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It echoed directly inside Ethan's mind. Ethan shook his head violently. Stay out of my head. The creature tilted its hollow face. There is no out. Its body stretched slightly taller, bones cracking softly as if adjusting. Only in. Ethan took a step back. No, you're not getting me. I'm not him. For a moment, silence. Then, the creature laughed again. Full, broken, mocking. He said the same. The room flickered. For a split second, the illusion dropped again. Ethan saw it clearly now. The real room. Small. Rotting. The walls weren't endless, they were close. Too close. And Daniel, his uncle, hung against the far wall, wrists bound by rusted chains bolted into wood. His body was thin, almost skeletal, skin pale and bruised. His eyes barely open. But alive. Still alive. Ethan, Daniel whispered, his voice dry and cracking. Don't let it touch you. The world snapped back. The monster shrieked. A violent, ear-splitting sound that made Ethan drop to his knees, clutching his head. He is mine. The creature moved. Fast. Too fast to follow. One moment it stood across the room. The next, it was right in front of him. Ethan barely reacted in time, throwing himself sideways as a long, twisted arm slammed into the floor where he had been standing. The impact cracked the surface like stone. Splinters and dust exploded into the air. Move! Ethan shouted at himself, scrambling to his feet. The creature's arm dragged across the ground, stretching unnaturally as it followed him. Too long. Too flexible. Like it didn't obey the rules of bone and muscle anymore. Ethan ran again, heart pounding violently. The room twisted with every step. Corridors forming where there were none. Walls bending inward. Trying to trap him. "You can't leave," the creature whispered. His voice was everywhere now. Above him. Behind him. Inside him. "This place chooses." Ethan skidded to a stop as a wall slammed down in front of him, blocking his path. "No." He turned. The creature was already there. It stood inches away. Too close. Ethan could see it clearly now. The texture of its skin, tight, stretched, almost translucent in places. Veins that didn't look human. Movement beneath the surface. Like something crawling inside it. And that face. That empty, melting surface. Split open again. The vertical crack widened slowly. Unnaturally. Inside. Darkness. Endless. Pulling. Ethan felt it. A force. Like gravity. Dragging him forward. "Come closer." His feet moved. Without permission. "No, no, stop." But his body didn't listen. The closer he got, the stronger it became. His thoughts slowed. His vision blurred. The world narrowed down to that open void. "It won't hurt," the creature whispered. "You'll finally understand." Ethan's hand tightened around the key. It burned hotter now. Almost unbearable. But that pain. It broke something. A moment of clarity. "No," he gasped. With everything he had. Ethan drove the key forward. Straight into the creature's chest. For a split second. Nothing happened. Then. The world exploded. The creature screamed. Not a normal scream. Something deeper. Something ancient. The walls convulsed violently, the entire room shaking as if reality itself was tearing apart. Cracks spread across the monster's body from where the key touched it. Dark liquid, thick and unnatural, began to leak out. "What have you done?" Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. "I don't know," he shouted. But it worked. The key glowed brighter now. Not just light. Energy. Something old. Something powerful. And suddenly, Ethan understood. Not completely. But enough. "This isn't for opening doors," he whispered. The creature staggered, its body twitching violently. "No. It's for locking them." The illusion shattered. This time. It didn't come back. The twisted, endless room vanished completely. Ethan stood in the real space now. Small. Decayed. And in the center of the floor. A trapdoor. Wooden. Covered in strange carvings. Symbols etched deep into its surface. The key pulsed in Ethan's hand. Reacting to it. "Ethan." Daniel's voice came again, weak but urgent. "That's it. That's where it came from." Ethan looked at him. "You knew." Daniel coughed, struggling to breathe. "I tried to understand it, thought I could control it." His eyes filled with regret. "I was wrong." Behind them, the creature began to reform. Its cracked body slowly pulling itself back together. "You can't stop this." Ethan looked at the trapdoor. Then at his uncle. Then at the monster. Everything led to this moment. "If I lock it," Ethan said, his voice shaking, "what happens to you?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He just looked at him. And in that look, Ethan understood. "It takes everything connected to it," Daniel whispered. Ethan's chest tightened. "No. You have to do it," Daniel said. "Or it will leave this house, and it won't stop." The creature let out a low, growing sound behind them. Its form rising again. Stronger. Angrier. "You think this ends here?" His voice had changed. Deeper. More stable. More real. His body no longer flickered. No longer unstable. It was adapting. "I've learned from him." Its hollow face turned toward Ethan. "Now I learn from you." The room felt smaller now. Not because the walls had moved, but because there was no escape left. Ethan stood over the trapdoor, the glowing key burning in his palm. The carvings on the wood pulsed faintly as if reacting to his presence, or to the thing rising behind him. Daniel's breathing was shallow. Uneven. running out. And the monster was changing. The cracks across its body sealed slowly, like flesh knitting itself back together. Its movements became smoother, less broken, more controlled, more human. "You're learning," Ethan whispered, backing away slightly. The creature tilted its head. This time, it didn't jerk. It didn't twitch. It moved naturally. "Yes," it said. And for the first time, its voice didn't sound distorted. It sounded almost normal, almost human. That was worse. Far worse. The hollow surface of its face began to shift, subtly at first, then more clearly. The melted, empty skin started forming shapes, contours, structure. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. No. A faint outline appeared. A nose, cheekbones, a jawline. Not perfect, not complete, but becoming something recognizable. "I told you," the creature said softly. "I learn." Ethan staggered back. "What are you doing?" The creature took a slow step forward. "Becoming?" Its forming face twisted slightly, like it was trying to remember something. "You." Ethan's blood ran cold. "No. No, you're not." The creature's lips, barely formed, curved into something close to a smile. "Not yet." "Ethan." Daniel's voice broke through the moment. Weak. Desperate. "It doesn't just escape, it replaces." Ethan looked at him, panic rising. "What does that mean?" Daniel coughed violently, blood staining his lips. "It needs a body, a mind, a life," he gasped. "It takes everything you are, and leaves nothing behind." Ethan turned slowly back toward the creature. "And then what?" he asked quietly. Daniel's voice dropped to almost nothing. "Then it walks out." The key pulsed harder now. Brighter. Hotter. Ethan looked down at the trapdoor. The carvings were glowing faintly, reacting to both the key and the creature. As if they were connected. As if this was all part of the same design. "It started here," Ethan murmured. The creature's voice came again. Closer now. "It never ended." Ethan dropped to his knees beside the trapdoor. "There has to be a way," he muttered, running his fingers over the symbols. They weren't random. They meant something. They had to. The key grew hotter. Reacting. Guiding. "Think," Ethan whispered. "Think." Behind him. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Getting closer. "You don't need to fight," the creature said calmly. Too calmly. "You don't need to suffer like he did." Ethan's hands trembled. "Shut up. Just let me in." "Shut up." The room shook violently as Ethan slammed his fist against the trapdoor. For a moment, everything went still. A sudden surge of energy shot through the key, up Ethan's arm, into his mind. And then, he saw it. The room changed. Not physically, but in his vision. He saw Daniel, years ago, standing exactly where Ethan was now, holding the same key, hearing the same voice. "You're not alone," the creature had whispered back then. "You don't have to be afraid." Daniel had believed it. At first, he had opened the trapdoor. Just a little. Just enough. And something came out. Not fully, but enough. Days passed in seconds before Ethan's eyes. Daniel talking to it. Listening to it. Trusting it. The walls changing. The house shifting. The thing growing stronger. And then, the realization. Too late. "It's not trapped," Daniel had whispered. "It's feeding." Ethan saw the moment everything changed. Daniel tried to lock it back. Tried to force it down. But it resisted. Fought. Adapted. And in the end, it didn't get sealed. Not completely. Instead, it bound itself to him. Connected. Linked. That's why Daniel never left. That's why he was still here. Ethan gasped, snapping back. "I understand," he whispered. Daniel looked at him weakly. "Then you know," he said. Ethan nodded slowly. "It needs someone to stay connected." The creature stopped moving. Watching. Listening. Ethan stood up slowly, the key still glowing in his hand. "If I lock it," he said, his voice steady now, "it won't just trap the creature." Daniel closed his eyes. "It traps the host." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Final. You won't do it, the creature said quietly. But there was something new in its voice now. Not confidence. Not control. Fear. You're not strong enough. Ethan looked at it. Really looked at it. At the forming face. At the stolen humanity. At the thing pretending to be something it could never truly become. You're wrong, he said. The creature moved again. But this time. Not to attack. To reach. Its arm extended slowly, unnaturally long fingers stretching toward Ethan's face. Then let me show you. Ethan tried to step back. But froze. His body locked in place. Paralyzed. The air itself pressing against him. Holding him still. No, he whispered. The creature's fingers brushed his skin. Cold. Wrong. And instantly, pain exploded in Ethan's mind. Memories flashed. Not his. Voices. Screams. Faces. Dozens. Hundreds. All overlapping. All trapped. We are many, the creature whispered. Ethan screamed. Pain didn't feel like pain anymore. It felt like invasion. Ethan's body stood frozen, locked in place as the creature's long, cold fingers pressed against his face. The moment they touched him, reality fractured. Not around him. Inside him. Voices. Too many. Screaming. Begging. Laughing. Crying. All at once. Ethan clutched his head, but his hands wouldn't move. His body wasn't listening anymore. We remember, the creature whispered. Images flooded his mind. A woman clawing at wooden walls. A man screaming as something pulled him into darkness. A child crying in silence. All of them. Trapped. We were them. Ethan gasped, his vision blurring. No, no, get out of my head. The creature leaned closer. Its forming face now inches from Ethan's. Closer to human. Closer to him. Not out, it murmured. In. Its fingers pressed harder. And suddenly, Ethan felt something tear. Not flesh. Not bone. Something deeper. His thoughts began to slip. His memories, blurring at the edges. What is happening? He whispered weakly. A memory surfaced. Clear. Bright. Ethan as a child. Running. Laughing. Calling out. But the name didn't come. He tried to hold on to it. Tried to remember who he was with. But it faded. Like it had never existed. No, Ethan choked. No, that's mine. The creature smiled. This time. With something that looked almost like a real mouth. Not anymore. Ethan's arm moved. But he didn't move it. It lifted slowly, unnaturally, fingers twitching as if controlled by something else. His breathing changed. Slower. Deeper. Wrong. No. Stop, he forced out. But his voice. It wasn't fully his anymore. It echoed. Layered. Stop. Something else repeated beneath it. The creature's body began to change rapidly now. The stretched limbs pulling inward. The jagged joints smoothing. Its height shrinking slightly as it aligned itself with Ethan's form. Two figures. Becoming one shape. Perfect, it whispered. Ethan's vision doubled. He could see himself. Standing there. From the outside. And from within. Ethan. The scream cut through everything. Sure. Raw. Real. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound. Daniel. Still chained. Still barely alive. But his eyes. Burning with something stronger than before. Fight it. Daniel shouted, his voice breaking. It only takes what you give it. Ethan's mind trembled. I can't. You can. Daniel coughed violently. It feeds on fear, on surrender. Don't let go. Ethan's fingers twitched. Just slightly. But enough. The creature froze. What are you doing? Ethan gritted his teeth. You're not taking me? The pressure in his mind intensified instantly. The voices screamed louder. The images became more violent. More overwhelming. You're already gone? The creature hissed. Ethan's body shook violently now. Half of him trying to move. Half of him resisting. His left arm bent unnaturally. His right arm fought back. His legs trembled as if they belonged to two different people. I'm still here, Ethan gasped. The creature's forming face twisted. For the first time. It looked angry. You think you're special? It snarled. The voices inside Ethan's head rose again. Louder. Clear. They all said that. Faces flashed again. Each one defiant. Each one broken. Each one gone. You will break too. Ethan screamed. But not in fear. In rage. No. For one brief moment, Ethan took control. His hands snapped downward, grabbing the key still clutched in his palm. The creature reacted instantly. No. Ethan drove the key toward his own chest. Time froze. The creature stopped moving. What are you doing? Ethan's breath shook violently. If you're in me, he whispered, then this will hurt you too. The creature's voice cracked. For the first time, there was real fear in it. You'll die. Ethan smiled weakly. Maybe. Daniel's eyes widened. No. Ethan, wait. But Ethan didn't stop. He pushed harder. The glowing key burned through fabric, through skin. Light spilling out from the contact point. The room shook violently. The trapdoor rattled beneath them. The wall screamed. Not metaphorically. Actually screamed. A high-pitched, inhuman sound tearing through the air. Stop. The creature's voice fractured again, losing control. You don't understand? Ethan looked up slowly, pain flooding every part of him. I do, he whispered. You're not just inside the house. His grip tightened. You're inside people. The creature froze. You figured it out? The key glowed brighter than ever. Blinding. Burning. Tearing through the connection. The creature's form began to distort violently. Half of it still Ethan. Half of it something else. If you do this, it hissed, you lose everything. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper now. Better than losing myself. The key sank deeper. The light exploded outward. And for the first time, the creature screamed not in anger, but in pain. Because Ethan had done the one thing no one else ever had. Pain didn't feel like pain anymore. It felt like invasion. Ethan's body stood frozen, locked in place as the creature's long, cold fingers pressed against his face. The moment they touched him, reality fractured. Not around him. Inside him. Voices. Too many. Screaming. Begging. Laughing. Crying. All at once. Ethan clutched his head, but his hands wouldn't move. His body wasn't listening anymore. We remember, the creature whispered. Images flooded his mind. A woman clawing at wooden walls. A man screaming as something pulled him into darkness. A child crying in silence. All of them. Trapped. We were them. Ethan gasped, his vision blurring. No, no, get out of my head. The creature leaned closer. Its forming face now inches from Ethan's. Closer to human. Closer to him. Not out, it murmured. In. Its fingers pressed harder. And suddenly, Ethan felt something tear. Not flesh. Not bone. Something deeper. His thoughts began to slip. His memories, blurring at the edges. What is happening? He whispered weakly. A memory surfaced. Clear. Bright. Ethan as a child. Running. Laughing. Calling out. But the name didn't come. He tried to hold on to it. Tried to remember who he was with. But it faded. Like it had never existed. No, Ethan choked. No, that's mine. The creature smiled. This time. With something that looked almost like a real mouth. Not anymore. Ethan's arm moved. But he didn't move it. It lifted slowly, unnaturally, fingers twitching as if controlled by something else. His breathing changed. Slower. Deeper. Wrong. No. Stop, he forced out. But his voice. It wasn't fully his anymore. It echoed. Layered. Stop. Something else repeated beneath it. The creature's body began to change rapidly now. The stretched limbs pulling inward. The jagged joints smoothing. Its height shrinking slightly as it aligned itself with Ethan's form. Two figures. Becoming one shape. Perfect, it whispered. Ethan's vision doubled. He could see himself, standing there. From the outside. And from within. Ethan. The scream cut through everything. Sure. Raw. Real. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound. Daniel. Still chained. Still barely alive. but his eyes, burning with something stronger than before. "Fight it!" Daniel shouted, his voice breaking. "It only takes what you give it." Ethan's mind trembled. I can't." "You can." Daniel coughed violently. "It feeds on fear, on surrender. Don't let go." Ethan's fingers twitched. Just slightly. But enough. The creature froze. "What are you doing?" Ethan gritted his teeth. "You're not taking me?" The pressure in his mind intensified instantly. The voices screamed louder. The images became more violent, more overwhelming. "You're already gone?" the creature hissed. Ethan's body shook violently now. Half of him trying to move, half of him resisting. His left arm bent unnaturally. His right arm fought back. His legs trembled as if they belonged to two different people. "I'm still here?" Ethan gasped. The creature's forming face twisted. For the first time, it looked angry. "You think you're special?" it snarled. The voices inside Ethan's head rose again. Louder. Clear. They all said that. Faces flashed again. Each one defiant. Each one broken. Each one gone. "You will break too." Ethan screamed. But not in fear. In rage. "No." For one brief moment, Ethan took control. His hand snapped downward, grabbing the key still clutched in his palm. The creature reacted instantly. "No." Ethan drove the key toward his own chest. Time froze. The creature stopped moving. "What are you doing?" Ethan's breath shook violently. "If you're in me," he whispered, "then this will hurt you too." The creature's voice cracked. For the first time, there was real fear in it. "You'll die." Ethan smiled weakly. "Maybe." Daniel's eyes widened. "No." "Ethan, wait." But Ethan didn't stop. He pushed harder. The glowing key burned through fabric, through skin. Light spilling out from the contact point. The room shook violently. The trapdoor rattled beneath them. The walls screamed. Not metaphorically. Actually screamed. A high-pitched, inhuman sound tearing through the air. "Stop." The creature's voice fractured again, losing control. "You don't understand." Ethan looked up slowly, pain flooding every part of him. "I do," he whispered. "You're not just inside the house." His grip tightened. "You're inside people." The creature froze. "You figured it out?" The key glowed brighter than ever. Blinding. Burning. Tearing through the connection. The creature's form began to distort violently. Half of it still Ethan. Half of it something else. "If you do this," it hissed, "you lose everything." Ethan's voice was barely a whisper now. "Better than losing myself." Light burst through Ethan's chest. Not blood. Not flesh. Light. Blinding. Violent. Alive. The moment the key drove deeper, something inside him snapped. Not bone, not muscle, but that invisible thread the creature had wrapped around his mind. And for the first time, the monster lost control. "No." The creature's voice fractured into dozens of overlapping tones, each one screaming at once. The sound tore through the room like a shockwave. The walls bulged violently. Hands pushed through them harder than before, clawing, tearing, desperate to break free. The trapdoor beneath Ethan's feet began to shake. Not lightly. Violently. As if something far bigger than the creature was moving beneath it. Ethan dropped to one knee, gasping. The key remained embedded in his chest, glowing brighter with every second. And the creature. It was being pulled out. Not completely. Not cleanly. But forcefully. Like something rejecting it. "Stop this!" it screamed, its form tearing between shapes, half Ethan, half the towering horror it once was. Ethan clenched his teeth. "You don't belong here." A loud metallic crack echoed through the room. Ethan turned his head. Daniel's chains. They snapped. One by one. As if the same force tearing the creature apart was breaking everything it had touched. Daniel collapsed forward, barely catching himself. But he was free. For the first time in years. Ethan? He whispered, dragging himself forward. Hold on, just a little longer. The trapdoor burst open. Not slowly. Not carefully. It exploded upward, the wood splintering as a surge of darkness poured out. Not empty darkness. Moving darkness. Alive. Ethan's breath caught. That's not, he whispered. The creature froze. For the first time since Ethan had seen it, it looked afraid. You woke it, it said, its voice trembling. The darkness rising from below wasn't the same as the creature. It was deeper. Heavier. Ancient. It didn't stretch. It didn't mimic. It simply was. You were never the only one, Ethan said weakly. The creature shook its head violently. I am the only one that matters. But its voice lacked conviction now. Because it knew. It had always known. Daniel dragged himself closer, his eyes fixed on the open trapdoor. It's not the source, he said, struggling to breathe. It's just a fragment. Ethan's mind raced. A fragment of what? Daniel's voice dropped. Something that was buried, not built, not created. Pause. Something that was found. Ethan forced himself to look down into the open trapdoor. At first, nothing. Just darkness. Then, movement. Far below. Something vast. Too large to understand. Not a body. Not a shape. Just presence. Watching. Waiting. And aware. Ethan's chest tightened. It's alive. The creature screamed again. Don't look at it. Ethan looked back at the creature. You're not the monster, he whispered. The creature's forming face twisted in rage. I am everything. But the truth was already clear. It wasn't everything. It was just a piece. A hand reaching up from something far worse. The darkness surged upward suddenly. Not slowly. Not carefully. It lunged, grabbing the creature. Not physically, but completely. Like gravity itself had turned against it. No, not again. The creature's body stretched unnaturally as it was dragged backward, toward the open trap. I won't go back. Ethan watched, barely able to breathe. Then what are you? He asked. For a brief moment, the creature stopped fighting. It looked at him. And in that moment, there was something almost human in its expression. I was the first one it touched. Ethan's eyes widened. You mean? Before your uncle, before this house, the creature whispered. I was someone else. A long silence. And then I wasn't. The darkness pulled harder. The creature screamed again. Ethan. Daniel shouted weakly. When it goes back, you have to seal it. Now. Ethan looked at the key. Still glowing. Still burning inside him. But what about? No time. Daniel snapped, coughing violently. If it pulls back fully, it'll take everything with it, or worse, it'll leave something behind. The creature lashed out one last time. Its arms stretched toward Ethan. Desperate. You need me, it screamed. Without me, IT will come for you directly. Ethan froze. What? Daniel's face went pale. That's not a lie, he whispered. The room trembled violently now. The darkness below pulsing stronger. Watching. Waiting. Aware of Ethan. Not just the creature. Ethan. You opened it, the creature said, its voice weakening. Now it sees you. A cold realization settled deep into Ethan's chest. This doesn't end here, he whispered. The key pulsed violently. Time was running out. The creature was halfway pulled into the darkness now. The trapdoor shaking uncontrollably. The house itself beginning to crack. And below, something ancient was waking up. The house began to fall apart. Not slowly. Not like an old building giving in to time. This was violent. Wood splitting, walls cracking, the floor trembling like it was trying to tear itself free from something beneath it. Ethan could barely stand. The key burned inside his chest like a second heart, pulsing with unbearable heat. And the trapdoor. It was no longer just open. It was awake. The creature screamed as it was dragged downward, its body stretching unnaturally, limbs elongating as if reality itself was pulling it apart. I won't go back, it howled. But the darkness didn't argue. It didn't hesitate. It simply took. Ethan watched, breath shaking. You said you were the first, he whispered. The creature's hollow-forming face turned toward him one last time. I was the first mistake. And then, it was gone. Dragged completely into the abyss. For a moment, everything stopped. No movement. No sound. Just silence. Heavy. Pressing. Unnatural. Ethan swallowed hard. Is it over? Daniel didn't answer. Because deep down, they both knew. Something worse had just begun. The darkness inside the trapdoor shifted. Not violently. Not chaotically. But with intention. Slow. Controlled. Where? Ethan felt it before he saw anything. A pressure inside his skull. Like something was pressing against his thoughts. Testing them. It sees you, Daniel whispered, his voice trembling. Ethan didn't look away. He couldn't. It wasn't pulling him physically. It was pulling something deeper. You opened the path, a voice echoed. Not loud. Not aggressive. But vast. Endless. Not coming from the room. But from everywhere at once. Ethan's voice barely came out. What are you? Silence. Then. You don't have a word for me? The floor beneath him cracked slightly, spreading outward from the trapdoor like veins. But you tried to contain me? Ethan's chest tightened. This house, he said slowly, isn't a prison. Daniel finished the thought. It's a seal. Everything made sense now. The carvings. The key. The trapdoor. The creature. It wasn't meant to keep something in. It was meant to keep something out. And Ethan. He had just opened it. The key burned hotter than ever. Ethan could feel it reacting to the presence below. Not resisting. Preparing. It's not done, Ethan whispered. Daniel forced himself up slightly. No, it's not. Ethan looked at him. What happens if we don't seal it? Daniel didn't hesitate. It won't need a host anymore. The darkness inside the trapdoor shifted again. This time, something emerged. Not fully. Not completely. But enough. A shape. Not defined. Not stable. Something too large to fit into reality, forcing itself into a form that didn't make sense. Ethan's vision warped just trying to look at it. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. You cannot hold me forever, it said. And unlike the creature, this voice didn't beg, didn't threaten, didn't need to. It was certain. Daniel dragged himself closer to Ethan, every movement filled with pain. Listen to me, he said, grabbing Ethan's arm weakly. The key, it doesn't just seal the door. Ethan looked at him. It binds the one who uses it. Ethan's breath stopped. You mean? Daniel nodded. You won't leave this place. The house groaned loudly as another crack split across the ceiling. Time was running out. Ethan looked back at the trapdoor. The thing below was pushing harder now. More of its presence leaking through. You are already marked, the entity said calmly. You cannot walk away from this. Ethan clenched his fists. Maybe not, he said quietly. But I can stop you. The entity paused. Just for a moment. As if considering him. Then. You misunderstand? The darkness shifted again. This time. Images appeared. Not in the room. In Ethan's mind. Cities. Crowds. People. Life. I am not your enemy. Ethan's jaw tightened. Yeah. Then what are you? A long pause. Then. I am what comes next. Ethan staggered slightly as more images flooded his mind. Power. Control. Endless existence. Freedom from fear. From pain. You felt them, the entity whispered. The ones trapped inside the fragment. I can give them peace. Ethan shook his head violently. No, you don't give peace. His voice hardened. You take everything. Daniel smiled faintly. Weak, but proud. That's it, he whispered. Ethan looked at him. We don't have much time. Daniel nodded. I know. Pause. Then. I'll hold it. Ethan froze. What? Daniel forced himself up fully, ignoring the pain tearing through his body. You use the key, he said firmly. Seal the door. Ethan shook his head. No. No, we can find another way. There isn't one. Daniel snapped, his voice breaking. I already tried. The entity below began to rise further. Faster now. Your time is over, it said. Daniel stepped toward the trapdoor. Every step looked like it might be his last. I opened it, he said quietly. I finish it. Ethan grabbed his arm. You'll die. Daniel looked at him. A calm expression settling over his face. I already did. The house was dying. Beams cracked like gunshots. Dust rained from the ceiling. The floor split in jagged lines that crept toward the open trapdoor, toward the darkness that was no longer content to remain below. Ethan could barely stand. The key burned in his chest, its glow now blinding, pulsing in rhythm with something deeper than his heartbeat. Across from him, Daniel stepped forward. Not strong, not whole, but certain. You cannot stop this, the entity said. Its voice no longer felt distant. It felt close. Too close. Like it was already halfway inside the world. Daniel stopped at the edge of the trapdoor. The darkness rose to meet him, shifting, reshaping, trying to understand him. Trying to claim him. I already did once, Daniel whispered. Ethan's voice broke. Uncle, don't. Daniel didn't look back. If you hesitate, he said calmly, everything ends. Ethan's hands trembled. There has to be another way. Daniel shook his head. You saw it, didn't you? Ethan's silence was enough. Daniel smiled faintly. That thing doesn't need a body anymore, it just needs a way through. The house groaned louder, the walls bowing inward. And you gave it one. The darkness surged upward again. This time, it formed something closer to a shape. Not human. Not anything that belonged in the world. But something trying to become. Long shifting limbs. A surface that reflected nothing. A presence that bent the air around it. Ethan's vision blurred just looking at it. You are fragile, it said. Temporary. Pause. I am not. Daniel stepped forward. Into it. Not fully. Not yet. But enough. The moment his body touched the darkness, it reacted violently. The shape twisted. Distorted. Like it didn't expect resistance. Daniel screamed. But he didn't step back. You want a way through? He shouted, his voice breaking under the pressure. Then take me instead. The entity surged around him instantly. Wrapping. Consuming. Trying to break him apart from the inside. Ethan watched in horror as Daniel's body lifted slightly from the ground, suspended between worlds. You cannot contain me, the entity said, its voice pressing against everything. Daniel gasped, but smiled. I don't have to. He turned his head slightly, just enough to look at Ethan. Now. Ethan didn't think, didn't hesitate. He ran forward, every step feeling heavier than the last as the pressure from the entity pushed against him. The trapdoor glowed faintly now. Waiting. The key in his chest pulsed violently. He reached it, dropped to his knees, and slammed his hand onto the carved surface. The key reacted instantly. Light exploded outward. Not like before. Stronger. Sharper. Final. The carvings on the trapdoor ignited, symbols glowing with an ancient energy that spread across the floor like veins of fire. The entity shrieked. A sound beyond sound. Something that didn't belong in human hearing. No. The light wrapped around everything connected to it. The trapdoor. The darkness. Daniel. Ethan. The entire house. Ethan screamed as the key burned deeper into him, anchoring him to the moment. I'm doing it, he shouted. Daniel's voice came faintly through the chaos. Finish it. The entity began to collapse inward. Not willingly. Not naturally. It was being forced. Dragged back into the space it had come from. Daniel's body twisted with it, caught in the pull. But he didn't fight. He held on. Locked in place by the same force. You will be forgotten, the entity hissed. Ethan gritted his teeth. Maybe. The light grew brighter. But you won't be free. Daniel looked at Ethan one last time. Through pain. Through the tearing force pulling him apart. And he smiled. You did good, kid. Ethan's voice broke. I'm sorry. Daniel shook his head weakly. Don't be. And then, he was gone. Pulled completely into the collapsing darkness. The trapdoor slammed shut. Art. Final. The light surged one last time. Then vanished. Silence. Complete. Absolute. The house gave out immediately. Without the force holding it together, it collapsed. Walls crashing down. Ceiling breaking apart. Wood splintering in every direction. Ethan barely managed to crawl away as the structure fell in on itself. Then, darkness. Ethan woke up outside. Cold ground beneath him. Rain falling lightly again. The storm had returned. But softer now. Weaker. The house was gone. Completely collapsed into a pile of broken wood and debris. As if it had never truly existed. Ethan pushed himself up slowly. His chest ached. But the key was gone. No wound. No light. Nothing. For a long moment, nothing happened. No voices. No movement. No presence. Just rain. Just breath. Just him. It's over, he whispered. And for the first time, it felt true. Ethan turned to leave. Took one step. Then another. But something made him stop. A feeling. Faint. Almost impossible to notice. He touched his chest slowly. Right where the key had been. And for just a second, very faintly, he heard it. A whisper. Not yet. Ethan froze. His breath caught. The rain continued falling. Soft. Endless. And somewhere, far below, something shifted. The end.